In this video, I'll teach you how to ace your data structures and algorithms interview to get your next software engineering job. In addition to system design and behavioral interviews, there will be at least one coding interview for any software engineering roles in big tech companies and startups. A lot of tutorials and videos focus on grinding lead code for passing coding interviews. But in my opinion, that is not the right approach. Instead, I'll teach you the framework to answer these questions so that you don't have to solve all lead code questions and still be able to pass the interview. I will use a framework that I have personally developed using AI and ML called Crunch. I will walk through how to answer any coding and data structures interview using the Crunch framework. I have mentored and coached hundreds of students using this same framework who ended up getting job offers from Microsoft, Google, Meta, and other big tech companies. Before I deep dive into the framework, let's step back and try to understand what these interviews are for, why preparation is crucial, and how each company evaluation could be different. I will use an analogy of a driving license test to explain it. In a driving license test, everyone takes similar tests on standard road conditions to evaluate basic maneuvers like parallel parking, but rarely used in daily driving. For example, I live in the suburbs and have hardly used parallel parking skills after the tests. Same as driving test. Data structures and algorithms are standardized interviews to evaluate effective problem-solving skills, writing algorithms, and communications. You may have implemented a complex memorization and recursion algorithm in a 45 minutes high-stakes evaluation, but will most likely never have to implement from ground ups in your real job. Second, preparation is crucial to successfully pass driving license tests through practice and doing mock sessions in a time-bound controlled environment. You may be a natural driver since age 5, not recommended, but that will not ensure you will get a driver's license when you reach your eligible age without preparation. Same with coding interviews. You will need to prepare for this test based on topics covered and evaluation criteria. Finally, preparation for driving test will depend upon the place you are giving the test. The California driving test might require different preparation than New York. Hence, it is important to spend time understanding each company's hiring details. Among the FANG companies like Google, Amazon, Microsoft, etc., and startups, the type and pattern of questions they ask are different, as well as the expectation. So it is important that you spend time to fully understand the details for each of these companies. For example, Google and Microsoft may ask you high-level difficulty questions and do not expect to provide a fully working optimal solution, but are more interested in your thought process and problem-solving skills. However, if you are interviewing at Amazon or Meta and you are presented with a medium-level difficulty question, it is important to solve faster with best time complexity. After you pass the screening round and move into a virtual or in-person loop, most companies will share the details of the interview, including which areas to prepare, resources, as well as giving you an opportunity to do a mock interview with one of the engineers. So make the most out of your recruiter and do research on the internet to fully understanding the hiring process and engineering culture. Now let's get back to the Crunch framework to systematically approach the question and solve it. Coding interviews usually start with the interviewer asking questions to solve certain problems. For example, write a function to check if a given input string is palindrome or not. Now, we will use the Crunch framework to systematically approach the question and solve it. C stands for clarify requirements. This step is important to make sure that you are not solving a wrong problem. Having to pivot the solution in the middle could be a disaster. Spending a few extra minutes during this time is very smart. For the same example, to check the palindrome, it may look like a standard leet code problem, but you still need to clarify requirements. And the best way to do this is by coming up with various different inputs and outputs. Examples are, now the requirements become clear. You will quickly make a note such as ignore case, which means convert to lowercase, skip non-alphanumeric characters, and handle empty strings. As you can see, this is not an efficient algorithm for long strings. R stands for research and outline solutions. There are usually multiple approaches to solving a single problem. First, discuss briefly the natural or brute force solution, including its pitfalls. For the example above, the brute force solution could be Step 1. Convert string to lowercase. Remove non-alphanumeric characters and empty strings. Save this to a memory. Step 2. Reverse the output from Step 1. Step 3. Compare output from Step 1 and Step 2. If they are same, return true, otherwise false. As you can see, this is not an efficient algorithm for long strings because you need to create another copy of the string. Next is when the knowledge of understanding the pattern of the question and applying corresponding algorithms is crucial. The most commonly asked categories or patterns of algorithms are sliding window for strings, arrays, linked list, sorting using bubble sort, quick sort, merge sort, and heap sort, traversal for breadth search, depth search, and backtracking, binary search for strings, arrays, and trees, recursion for string, arrays, trees, and graphs, and memoization and dynamic programming. Each of these algorithms has specific use cases, strengths, and limitations. The key is understanding their characteristics and choosing the right tool for the specific problem at hand. Once you find the constraints with brute force method, iterate the solution to optimize it. For the same question, as you look into avoiding to create duplicate string, the following options naturally comes: two-pointer, recursive, and using regular. You need to briefly discuss each approach, their pros and cons, and decide which algorithm to implement. The third step in Crunch framework is for understanding complexity. Analyze the computational complexity of your proposed solutions, discussing big O notation for time and space requirements, and compare the efficiency of different approaches. Big O notation describes an algorithm's performance measuring time and space complexity. Time complexity is how runtime scales, and space complexity is memory uses with change input. In fact, the steps R and U in Crunch framework go hand in hand. As you describe the solution, you also discuss time and space complexity to select the optimal solution. For the same example, reverse string is not optimal because the space increases linearly with increase in length of string. So for long string, it takes quite a lot of time. So out of all the solutions, the two-pointer solution is probably the best since the memory uses will not increase based on the input and remains constant. So you will probably agree with the interviewer to go ahead and implement this solution. Finally, in the Crunch framework, the next and is to nail the code. As you can see, writing the code is only a small part of this interview. After you clearly understand the requirements, including edge cases, high-level solutions, as well as the time and space complexity, now it is just a matter of writing code. Pick the language that you are most comfortable with. If you were to learn a new language, I would suggest studying Python for its simplicity and conciseness. This is when the knowledge of data structures and algorithms is required. The common data structures that you will need to know are strings and arrays, linked lists, stacks and queues, hash tables, trees, and graphs. Write the code step by step, ensuring clarity and correctness. Implement the chosen solution, writing clean, efficient, and readable code that directly addresses the problem's requirements. You can also break down the algorithm into smaller functions and after implement the secondary utility methods. For example, in the same question, you can assume that there is a separate function that will convert the input into all lowercase strings by removing white spaces and non-alphanumeric characters. The requirements for the code to compile and execute depends upon the company. Irrespective, the expectation is to write correct algorithms and data structures. Now, the next in Crunch framework C is to check with a dry run. After you finish writing the code, manually walk through the code with simple inputs, tracing the algorithm's steps to ensure it works correctly and handles different scenarios. To do the dry run, in this step, you can take a few input samples from step 1. Finally, H is to hammer test cases. This is the last test step when you write unit test cases, including edge cases, boundary conditions, and potential error scenarios to thoroughly validate the solution. When following this framework, make sure that you are thinking out loud throughout the interview. This is quite important, especially in a virtual interview when the interviewer cannot easily understand your body language. Make sure to listen to the hint given by the interviewer, especially if you are going in the wrong direction. In my experience, if you follow this framework, study fundamentals of data structures and algorithms, and give a few mock interviews, you should be well prepared to pass any coding interviews. Finally, to conclude the video by referring to the driver's license analogy, think of tech interviews like getting your driver's license. Sure, you might not parallel park every day, but you still practice it for the test. Same with coding interviews. You might not implement complex algorithms daily, but mastering them shows you understand the fundamentals. Both tests create artificial pressure, require specific preparation, and test your ability to communicate while performing tasks. Remember, just like a driving test does not fully measure your driving skills, coding interviews are just one part of being a great engineer. Focus on the process, practice the patterns, and keep the bigger picture in mind. Go with the mindset that you do not have control over the result. By giving your 100%, I'm confident you will get your next dream job in one of big tech companies soon. Thank you for watching this video. If you found this video helpful in your software engineering career, do not forget to like and subscribe to my channel. Bye until the next one.